Welcome to the Business 7 show. My name is Uhane Tlhache, and keeping in line with last week's edition, we take a look at key events that made the headlines this year.
Save the date for November 26, 2025, when all registered voters head to the polls for the regional councils and local authorities elections. Your voice matters, and your vote is your voice. Head to your nearest polling station and elect your leaders. Remember, every vote counts. Get involved, put your voice in the box. Vote on November 26, 2025.
Angola this year hosted the US-Africa Summit, where President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah was a participant. RMB banking official Angelique Peake shared her insights at the time into what unfolded at the summit. Perspective also, of course.
Yeah, so it's really interesting what the summit was for. It really aims to get majorly, United States investors into Africa, to understand how Africa works, and to allow a better understanding of what opportunities there are for investment. You must understand that the world is seeing that Africa is growing, that Africa has a massive, they were talking about 1.3, 1.4 billion people, 3.4 trillion economy as Africa, and that presents a massive opportunity. Africa is growing, Europe is shrinking, and from an economic perspective, there is a massive amount of growth and opportunity in Africa. So this summit, which started a few years ago, there's been one in Botswana, there's been one in the States, and they want to do the next one, perhaps in Mauritius next year, is all about Americans coming here and being exposed to what the opportunity sets looks like, where there is stability, where there is a good logistics corridor, because naturally that helps with investment, and how can they invest. The message was clear. The Americans are keen to come to Namibia, or to Africa as a whole, as Africa is expanding its logistics corridors with now what is coming, the Lobito corridor, with our corridors into Zambia, Botswana, the corridors into the north, the ability to move product and people around easier is also a benefit. So it's a really interesting gameplay at the moment with regards to the Americans looking to invest in Africa, looking to find new opportunities. For Namibia, naturally, in any case, we have many different types of industries where we have abilities to grow the country and the economy. But with the more recent energy transitions, naturally, there's even more opportunity for people to invest. And
staying on matters related to the US-Africa Summit, Peake also emphasized how well President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah was able to explain Namibia's policy situation with regards to how investors will be met in Namibia if they do decide to come and do business in Namibia.
Sort of gave the investors assurance that Namibia would work on its investment facilitation bill, and then we also know that there's issues around the new Namibia equity NIEF, or NIEP for that matter. Yeah. How reassuring do you think these comments are, and is enough being done to give a clear picture that we are indeed serious about bringing about this legislation that is important for Namibia, and it's not just narrative or just talk?
So it's an interesting point, and I myself was for the first time this closely exposed to our president speaking, and I was extremely impressed by how she put the message across. She first of all really knows what she's talking about. You can tell she's been representing the country in various prospects for a long time. So she made it clear that we are part of a global village, and that we know that we can't grow this country on our own. Yeah. So she was very open to the message that investors are welcomed with open arms. They will have to operate within the laws and the policies that we are putting to them, but we are here to make it an easy, stable environment for them. The government is stable, the fiscal and legal policies are stable, and while there are still some policies that aren't clear and aren't finalized, she made it very clear that she has tasked her new ministers to finalize these with urgency.
Yes.
So I think the message was definitely one for, please come here, help us grow this country, do it in the way that we're, help us solve for unemployment. It is a big, major issue in Namibia. But by all means, we will allow you to make your profits, to take your profits out, but it needs to be a win-win situation. So I think the message from her was extremely clear. And
We also had a conversation with Anchor Capital economist Casey Spraker about why Namibia is a hot investment destination.
For the Nedbank Future of Business Conference that's taking place on the 21st of August.
21st of August is around the corner.
Yes.
I can imagine that life must be so busy for you right now.
Very extremely.
What specific topics or workshop will the conference cover under the themes of leadership, communication, HR, and IT?
So the conference is number one, geared to target owner-managed businesses. So this could be SMEs, this could be startups, but we are targeting businesses that are currently being managed by their owners. So we wanted to empower these owners with the 4 topics because we know those are 4 topics that are very relevant for every business. Every business needs communication, every business needs IT, HR, and leadership in order to thrive. So with the 4 topics, we have various subtopics under them. I won't go too much into detail, but I can say that most of the things that we are going to be discussing in the 4 sessions are going to be future-based. All of them, in fact. We want
Anchor Capital economist Casey Spraker also spoke about the need for Namibia to create policy certainty, given that it's being seen as a favorable investment destination currently.
a dynamic world.
Wow, I love that. It's so innovative, I have to say, and you are definitely thinking of the future. How will the conference ensure that the content is tailored to address the unique challenges and opportunities faced by Namibian SMEs and startups in the local economic context?
So one thing that we have really made sure to do is to be very careful with our lineup of speakers, number one. We have a great lineup of very experienced, very informed speakers from Namibia and also internationally. And all these speakers, we've made it very clear to them that whatever they are going to present at the conference for the attendees is going to be something that the attendees can take back to their businesses and implement, the very next day. We don't want this to just be a talking, event where you just go and hear people talk and then you go back the next day, you forgot everything. So they are going to get practical tools that they can implement in their businesses. They are going to get access to these business leaders from several industries at the conference because we have various opportunities at the conference for them to engage with these speakers directly. And then also
the sectors of mining, tourism, and the nascent oil and gas industry are being seen as crucial to unlocking Namibia's economic potential. Anchor Capital economist Casey Spraker unpacks these issues.
Q&As with them to really dive deeper into the specific issues that they are facing in their businesses in order to help them just to go forward.
I love that, which leads me directly into my next question, which can you provide more details on the interactive or the practical elements of the conference, such as the networking opportunities or hands-on sessions that will help attendees apply the insights, as you mentioned?
So two things that I can mention that are quite exciting that are going to happen at the conference. The number one thing is we have a masterclass, for example, in our communications session, a masterclass by a lady called Tatiana Ndlovu. She's the Nedbank Africa Group Head of Communication and Marketing. So she's going to give a brilliant masterclass on marketing and communication for African brands, how you can market your brands in a African context, how you can make sure that your brand stands out. And we also have another session in our IT session. We have a launch of a payment solution from Nedbank. And this payment solution is something that our business founders that are going to be attending, it's something that they are going to be using in their businesses, something that is going to help them with carrying out their.
Despite being seen as an attractive investment destination, Namibia still has to make a case for why investors should put their money here.
So those are two very, very exciting opportunities. And then on top of that, we have at least 5 networking sessions throughout the day, because it's a full day event. So throughout these networking sessions, the first one is a meet and greet where we just want everyone to, to just get over their shyness and introduce each other, introduce themselves, and get to meet, the speakers. And then throughout the day, you have other networking opportunities to go back to the speakers and ask them. Maybe they said something during their presentation that was particularly of interest to you, and then you just step back into that, have a conversation with them, and then by the end of the event, we do want to share all of the presentations on our website. We want this to be something that delivers beyond the day. Yes.
So it's something that I can have access to even after the actual conference is taken place. I love that. I definitely love that. And I see the importance of networking in the business sector. A lot of people are working in silos where there's so many opportunities for collaboration or partnerships. How do you, as the organizers, plan to measure the impact of the Future of Business Conference on participating businesses in terms of growth, innovation, or strategic development? You did mention quite a few things that I absolutely, absolutely love.
Namibia Securities Exchange CEO Tian Bazain recently spoke about the listings environment in Namibia and what it offers for companies looking to raise capital.
There was a recent announcement by Nedbank, the Nedbank Group in South Africa, that they would be looking to increase local ownership in the local subsidiary, Nedbank Namibia. One of the potential options would obviously be a listing. How did you take to that development as the head of the NSX?
Well, they were the one outlier in terms of the banking sector that never came to market. And some of the previous statements around this were certainly not as positive as we heard from the group CEO last week. So I take that. I think it would be wonderful if Nedbank came to list. And I know initially when NIF was still on the table, there was a discussion around what would qualify as compliance therein. And what we saw at the time was the policy uncertainty there kept a lot of companies from coming to market. Also, post-COVID, we saw that kept a lot of companies from coming to market because they had normalized earnings. So there can oftentimes be reasons why companies don't come and list. But I think post-COVID, if we have a clear policy situation with government, and this 51% mining local ownership discussion has already thrown a spanner in that works. But we need policy certainty, and I think that's been the key strength to Namibia's investment landscape for a long time. But we need to work on that again to get that where it should be. So that kept a lot of companies from coming to market because they had normalized earnings. So there can oftentimes be reasons why companies don't come and list. But I think post-COVID, if we have a clear policy situation with government, and this 51% mining local ownership discussion has already thrown a spanner in that works. But we need policy certainty, and I think that's been the key strength to Namibia's investment landscape for a long time. But we need to work on that again to get that where it should be.
Namibia Airports Company CEO BC Uirap also spoke to Business 7 and laid out what infrastructure projects are in the pipeline, the revival of a national airline, as well as the Air Connect initiative that the NAC is a participant of.
You mentioned the Air Connect initiative, and this is centered around getting or making Hosea Kutako and Namibia improving connectivity. And then comes the question or the issue of the revival of a national airline, which is one can say is probably a contentious issue.
how does that play into it, and what are your feelings in terms of reviving, let's call it Namibia for now.
Yeah, just to make it clear, the government has taken a decision to revive a national airline. And as you're indicating, the indication so far from the government is that they're not talking about reviving Air Namibia, but bringing in a national airline. What the name of that airline would be, it's probably early days for now. We don't know. Why the national airline? Namibia is a vast country. From north to the south, or east to west, is huge, and government needs to provide services to all the people of this country. Businesses need to run. And as of now, where we are not connected by air with many towns, it's so costly, time consuming for us to reach various parts of our country. That is why we are in agreement with government's view on introducing a new airline to ensure that we are able to provide quick connection between various towns and regions in our country. So it is something that we as Namibia Airports Government would support. Also, we are a country with various tourism attractions where people could go to the south to Fish River Canyon, to Sources Flay, to Zambezi region, to Kunene region, and it just makes logical sense for us to be able to provide a facility that can be used by our tourists to see the best of Namibia within the shortest possible time. Therefore, it makes absolute sense for us to have a national airline that will also connect Namibia with our regional capital cities, with Botswana, Lusaka, Harare, and of course South Africa. And the idea of us developing Jose Gutego International Airport is also to attract wide-bodied aircrafts, international airlines to come to our country. And that is what Air Connect is trying to do, to attract many international airlines to come to Namibia, and then we can distribute travelers of Southern Africa from Windhoek as a mini hub to the rest of the world, and to welcome travelers from the rest of the world to Namibia and then distribute them in the region. And that is where our national airline would come into play. It will be connecting our national towns, Windhoek and the rest of the country, but at the same time we also anticipate that it will be connecting Namibia with the rest of the Southern Africa region. So it is something that is worthwhile. The only thing that we can say is that we as a nation must look at it very carefully so that the business model makes sense. It must not be a burden on the state coffers, but it must be something that is economically viable. Therefore, as a state considers establishing this national airline, we must look at how best can we structure this in terms of ownership and the financing of this initiative to make sure that it does not drain the coffers of our.
Dias Katota, who is a risk assessment specialist at the Namibia Financial Institution Supervisory Authority, joined us on the Business 7 show to talk about the Namibia Financial Institution Supervisory Authority statistical bulletin that looked at key trends in the non-banking financial services sector. Yeah. Just in terms of that picture that you've painted, and this is somewhat of a topical issue that I want to bring in, is the issue of the lenders. You're speaking now to these, or should I, for lack of a better term, the cash loans. What are the trends that you're seeing developing there? What are the growth trends that you've seen, and in terms of also just in terms of the number of intermediaries, but also the growth in assets?
So for the term lenders, I would say the biggest growth is more in terms of new registrations. So the statistics predominantly, I think it's approaching 1,000, it's just above 1,000 in terms of active registered micro lenders. So there's a lot of appetite in terms of new registrations to join players to join the market. But in terms of disbursements, so naturally there's an element of recycling. And also you will notice that given that the ordinary consumers, they are under household pressure, I mean the balance sheets are under stress financially. So there's that effect. We have seen on the banking side, for example, the credit extension was predominantly below 3%. So you can see, so on this side, the consumers are also under financial distress, so that's why the growth is not so much significant as one would wish, because people are under significant pressure, and there's a lot of recycling. You know, you'll find that same consumers, so they are just taking the same revolving loans. You pay down, and then so the micro lenders, because it's a monthly trend, so they sort of tend to recycle some of these things. And also, I should also tell you that the regulators have also been very strict with the lenders in the space by introducing some of the close monitoring interventions to ensure that the over-lending without paying attention to affordability. So now PISA went out to implement strict measures to enforce the compliance in terms of affordability. And that naturally also has contained that artificial growth, if you like, because growth must be healthy, not toxic.
Of course.
Because when you deduct someone's salary and leave them with a $20, so what normally happens is the growth because of the nature of their balance sheet, your short-term and medical aid. So by nature, they all have short-term obligations, unlike your pension and long-term insurance. So these guys, they tend to invest money for long-term purposes. So that's why naturally their growth rate is very high, because they invest in high-growth assets, like your equities and so on. But the short-term space, predominantly more than 80% of their investments is invested in money market instruments. And you can imagine the growth rate of investing in money market instruments, which are very short-term. So naturally, you will expect very low returns, below, let's say, single digit. It cannot be double digit. So it's very much, if there's a growth in terms of investment returns, then it's very low. But maybe there's a potential growth, which at the moment we are still also trying to deal with that aspect, to differentiate between growth in new business and growth due to investment returns. So that's split. Normally, if the growth for this industry is over 10%, then you will know it's maybe because there was a lot of new business. But market returns, they're actually linked to your money market rates, like your treasury bills and so on and so forth. So that's how they grow. Not naturally below 5-7%, so they don't, if it's market related. But if it's higher than that, then we know it's because of new businesses.
Save the date for November 26, 2025, when all registered voters head to the polls for the regional councils and local authorities elections. Your voice matters, and your vote is your voice. Head to your nearest polling station and elect your leaders. Remember, every vote counts. Get involved, put your voice in the box. Vote on November 26, 2025.
As Namibia heads to the polls, we wish all of the candidates who are vying in the local authority and regional council elections all the best. Good night.